Lyndon Johnson, who was so superb on the domestic front, put himself in the hands of McNamara and Westmoreland, Christian warfare people. And he wanted to make South Vietnam safe for democracy. The ways and means were not there. Now, this president, to make the Middle East safe for democracy. Failure to think through ways and means as compared to declaring absolute objectives. Now, furthermore, FDR, let me tell you something about this guy, FDR. He was a very imperious guy. He, in building his war cabinet, he'd been Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Read Alfred Thayer Mahan's book when he was a teenager, when I read mine. We didn't read the same period. And he, though he got a cockamamie idea in 1938 when he was trying to get ready for Hitler, and yet his hands were tied. Lindbergh, most popular man, America's first non-intervention provisions of the acts of the Congress that tied his hands. And so he thought, look, I will take all of our money and I will put them into 15,000 bombers, and it'll deter Hitler. General LeMay would have loved this. You know, I'm an old infantryman. I'm not much on all that bombing up there. But anyway, maybe it'll scare him. I mean, it's not that those planes could have reached over there. So I'm sure with that cigarette holder of his, going around the war cabinet he's assembled. Yes, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President. Man. These senior people, and he gets to this new brigadier general. He'd never met him before. Never met him before. His name was George Catlett Marshall. He had just arrived in Washington as a brigadier general in charge of war plans. And Roosevelt said, George, I'm sure you agree. No, sir, Mr. President, I disagree. The room stunned. Roosevelt, I'm sure he probably dropped his cigarette holder. George, what do you mean? You disagree. Sir, you're right. Hitler's coming. You've got to prepare for a long war and balanced forces and a balanced budget to deal with it for the long haul. Everybody trailed out of that room. They saw just, he's retiring as a brigadier general. Fast forward. Then over a year later, he calls him in. George, I'm going to make you chief of staff. On one condition, Mr. President. George, on one condition? Yes, sir. What's that? That you not call me George. So let me explain. And I'm sure he didn't use my language, but I don't want to be buddy-buddy. I want to give you a straight scoop. So he never called him George again. Fast forward. We're ready for the invasion of Europe. Roosevelt calls him in. General Marshall, you and I read military history. The people that go down in the great annals of military history are not the planners of victory. They're the people that conduct the brilliant campaign. You have earned it. You planned it. It's yours for the asking.